You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 367. My name is Clark from 5cardguys.com. You could also find me at 5cardguys on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and on TikTok. Co-hosting with me today is Hyung. He's back from Korea to talk sports cards again. And John, he's also with us. So we got the original crew back. I think we've been joking off air that it feels like it's been a year since we were back together, the three of us. But it's always great when we have the original crew back. But first, before we get into it, Hyung, do you have a good time in Korea? Are you glad to be back? What's the update?
You know what? It's always, as you guys could testify, it's always a good time, but glad to be back. There's nothing better than, the convenience of home. So I'm happy. Yeah, I'm definitely happy to be back.
And I know, Hyung, you and I were talking in your studio last week how it's a little challenging when you're on the other side of the world and the time zone difference it's mess you up. You're up when everyone else is asleep, and then you're asleep when everyone else is up. It kind of you kind of lose that community in a way because you're not up at the same time.
But
right?
Then you get the degens on Facebook groups that are late night ripping posting cards. So I got my dosage of sports card hobby nonsense.
That's true. You could take advantage. They're probably getting tired, but you're like up and ready to go.
And bustling, yeah.
Yes, I didn't even think about that, but that is true. All right. Off the top, I just want to quickly get your thoughts on something that seemed to come out of left field, and that is the news that GameStop that they're trying to acquire eBay for $56 billion. So I don't think a lot of people are taking this too seriously because GameStop is, I believe, a quarter of the size financially of eBay. And that, of course, begs the question of where GameStop will get the $56 billion. We do have partial answers. GameStop is reportedly worth $9 billion. Apparently, TD is willing to put up $20 billion. And so if you do the math, that leaves a shortfall of $26 billion. In which Ryan Cohen, the CEO of GameStop, said in an interview, which by many accounts went horribly because of the lack of details he offered, but he said it would be a half cash, half stock offer, and that's become a meme, his half cash, half stock offer. So in a nutshell, if GameStop has more than half the deal lined up in cash, in a 50-50 cash stock deal, that would mean they'd have to pay the remaining amount by giving the rest to eBay shareholders newly issued stock. So to simplify it even more, if GameStop acquires eBay, the new company will pretty much look like eBay because it's the larger company right now, but a larger eBay that now has physical stores, i.e. GameStop, but it'll also be in debt about $25 billion. All right. So before we get into how it could impact the hobby, does this deal make sense to you guys? Like if you're GameStop, I think the benefits are more obvious. You're pretty much supercharging and growing the company, acquiring eBay, a trusted brand, but also taking on huge debt on one side. But if you're an eBay shareholder, I guess you can get paid out nicely and also have the upside of having more shares in this new company. But I don't know if that's worth it. What do you guys think about this whole deal in general?
Wow. Yeah, this is a lot to unpack because I think what we see on TV is kind of everybody's reaction to it, saying it doesn't make sense from that standpoint. But if you really break it down, it 100% makes sense for Ryan Cohen and what he's been trying to do. Like if you followed the GameStop saga, he's always believed that it was undervalued. And I think from an ecosystem perspective, we're talking strictly business. And by no means am I saying this is going to work out because there's a lot to unpack, but one obviously con is accruing that massive debt and being leveraged with debt. But at the same time, I think from a business standpoint, it does make sense with based on where GameStop kind of wants to go, because I think they had no direction because there was no simple way of getting GameStop out of where they were, but something massive where it was almost like paradigm shifting, a totally change of direction, because Ryan Cohen is right. He sees the value. He sees where the marketplace is going. There's no denial that, eBay is massive now, and it's the number one trading platform for sports cards and, obviously other items, but sports card being the main factor. And also, eBay's involvement with TCG Player, there's a lot of crossover in terms of GameStop and what they could provide, as well as their holding of eBay itself. I believe GameStop has a minority share, I think less than 5%, but still a big chunk of eBay. And from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint. If I was Ryan Cohen, and I'm a big Ryan Cohen believer, because what he ultimately stands for is he's against kind of like the big Wall Street. He's been a proven entrepreneur, sold his company for $3.5 billion to PetSmart. So he understands e-commerce before e-commerce blew up. He's one of the most successful e-commerce businessmen. He was the leader in a company called GameStop that nobody believed in, and wiggled his way into, being a master at meme culture and just in general, a cult following, right? So for me, do I believe in Ryan Cohen? It's not necessarily, do I believe in the vision? It's crazy and there's a lot of hurdles, but I believe in Ryan Cohen. That's why I like it.
Wow. Okay.
In terms of does it logistically make sense? Absolutely not right now, because obviously the debt, and why would eBay want to sell? They're making tons of profit, right? So it would almost have to be a overpay. And there has to be massive upside for eBay. But yeah, if Cohen could pull this off, absolute genius. And he would literally take, GameStop to the moon. Yeah.
Wow. I love that perspective, because I feel like anything you see online right now, Ryan Cohen's a joke, so it's good to have that counterbalance.
The interview was terrible. It was so bad to the point where, you definitely don't want to rely on that to be his factor. But people who've been around understand what
his resume speaks for itself.
Yes.
For sure. I agree. What do you think, John?
So I saw the headline, and that's it. So I'm so glad that Hyung provided some context into who Ryan Cohen is. That kind of helps shape my thought a little bit. And then Clark, I'm glad you kind of gave a little bit of context on the financial aspect of it, because when I saw the headline, and by the way, I didn't see the interview, literally I just saw the headline.
Yeah.
And I don't invest in stocks. I mean, besides some of my retirement stuff, but we all know GameStop was in pop culture for a little while. And the first thing I just thought was, had no idea GameStop had that kind of money to buy eBay. That seems absurd. And I'm glad you provided the financial context, because they don't have that kind of money, and they got to make it up somehow. It does seem like a pipe dream. I really don't know, strictly from a casual observation point of view. I don't know what to think. I'm glad Hyung gave some context. It seems like this could be something that could be great for the hobby if Ryan Cohen pulls it off. Somebody that is kind of on the side of the hobby and wanting to make it grow further. So I think that seems positive. Outside of that, the thought of, I think going back to a long time ago, we kind of talked about, before GameStop started doing submissions and trading cards and stuff we talked about it'd be great if eBay kind of had a storefront, at a
Right.
Walmart or something. And
Yeah.
if this looks like it could be coming true, like what we kind of talked about, right? Where there's just less and less barriers to folks that want to sell their cards, or for the card market to be a lot more liquid, right? Like if we can
Hmm.
get to a point where it's kind of like a well symbol, you can just get on your phone and start trading, and you don't have to really worry about shipping or things getting lost. Um, you know, if it was eventually, you could submit, you can drop off your eBay products right at GameStop. They do all the work for you. You pay a little bit of a premium, whatever it is. That would be amazing, because you really get rid of the fears of, again, like we were seeing this news every day. Post office losing your cards, and I don't know if you guys saw a post that Roy put up, but somebody observed that the USPS is doing like an auction on like lost, or the
That's
government.
crazy.
I
I
don't know,
seen
like
that.
that.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
insane.
nuts.
That's shady.
It's
Yeah.
totally. And when I think about it, I did lose like a big Juan Soto card a long time ago to the mail. And I think it was in the Atlanta, because they mentioned the Atlanta area. And I think it did stop by Atlanta, and that's where it got lost, which made me think, ooh, man, that all seems really shady. But
It's
anyways,
in yeah, it's in the USPS auction right now.
yeah,
That one.
seriously. But
Crazy.
it seems it seems a bit of a pipe dream, obviously still, but if it were to happen, I think it's a big positive for the hobby.
I'm glad you brought that up, John, because I was thinking the exact same thing. Where if eBay had a storefront, and um, that's a place where you can drop off your cards. Yeah, you get rid of all your fears, right? Of like it getting lost, because it's really about liability. You don't want to take that on yourself.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm thinking like, are we going back in time? Where we cut out the middlemen because of technology, made a lot of things cheaper, but now we want storefronts again, where we want the middleman back in, but it's because we don't want to take on that liability. So that's why it makes sense to me now, especially with the hobby, and we'll talk about this later in the hobby headline segment. Like it's becoming more lucrative every day now. Like the cars that we transact are not in the hundreds anymore. It's in the thousands and tens of thousands for a lot of these collectors now. So you want that kind of peace of mind. And I think that's what it does. So that kind of leads to my next thought, which is it just makes more sense to me that eBay would acquire GameStop and then take on its physical infrastructure. That makes sense to me if eBay wanted to do that rather than the other way around, right? So I think a lot of people will agree with me on that. But the theory that I have, and you kind of hinted at it, Hyung, early on, which is what is going on with GameStop trying to acquire eBay. I think Ryan Cohen is playing a game behind the game right now, meaning I think he knows this acquisition offer is unrealistic. I don't think he thinks it's going to happen, but I think the true intention is really to get the spotlight on GameStop and how they're trying to rebrand as a true collectibles and cards company instead of what I believe people still know them as, a video game retailer. It's hard to shake that off because they've been that way for so many years. Even when I go to GameStop, you still see video games and you're like, okay, I don't buy video games anymore. But I do see more and more cards and collectibles. And I think what Ryan Cohen is trying to do is pivot hard to the collectible space because that's where the money is at right now. So what better way to do it than just create this mass media attention by just throwing out an outlandish acquisition offer to a company that's 4 or 5 times bigger than you are. Still no definitive way on how you're going to raise the capital other than issue 2x the number of stocks, which doesn't make sense for a lot of people. But like I said, I think that's not his intention. I think it's just to kind of get the name GameStop out there and, say like, hey, we're actually serious about the collectibles business. Even though this isn't going to happen with eBay, I wouldn't be surprised in the near future. There's a smaller announcement that GameStop will acquire something in the collectible space, that market, and because it's just all about rebranding at this point for Ryan Cohen. So
Yeah,
that's my theory. That's my thought.
I like it
That
because
sounds
it's
spot
strategic.
on. That's a great observation.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. The thing with Ryan Cohen is it's not every move is so intentional with him because he believes in the larger picture of things. So, you know what I mean? If he truly believed in GameStop because he truly believed that it was undervalued and he was willing to put his own kind of name and money on the line, it's because he believes in something. So whether it's, you know what, I believe in this industry, or I believe in the future of GameStop, that it's not limited to just video games, that it's game culture, it's in sports cards and TCG, all that is so popular right now that he's like, I need to be relevant and intentional with my move. Nothing has changed to date. This is the reason why I purchased a majority share of GameStop in the first place, is because I believe in the future of GameStop. What that actually looks like, nobody knew within the last 2 years, because nobody could even say that the hobby was going to be where it is today, right? With these crazy valuations. So that's why I think this is what I learned. You never bet against the man. You know what I mean? Regardless of the hurdles they have to go, it's like, if you truly believe in the guy driving the ship, and he has a proof of concept already that he's been it, and he has this grand vision, I would bet on the guy. So regardless, I think whether it's a marketing stunt or, doing something to push something forward, is definitely something that he's intentionally doing.
All right, hold on. I'm just gonna buy some GameStop stock right now.
But usually on mergers, there's a crash before correction.
Okay. I'll wait.
Heads up.
But I'm going to close this segment by this observation. I don't know if you saw it, but this is why I also think Ryan Cohen is definitely smarter than he appears. I feel like he's kind of trolling everyone in the media right now, because he listed some of his things on eBay. I don't know if you saw that, and he tweeted, quote, "I'm selling stuff on eBay to pay for eBay."
Amazing.
End quote.
Amazing.
And he posted his eBay account link, and apparently, I just read it this morning, eBay suspended his account, but then when I clicked on the link, it's back up. Okay, so I guess eBay's like, this isn't worth our while. Let's put it back up. And I didn't know this too. Maybe you guys did, but I didn't know Ryan Cohen was Canadian either.
He is, right? Montreal.
From Montreal, and I didn't clue in until I saw some of his eBay listings, and it included a Vlad Guerrero Sr., a Larry Walker, and a Randy Johnson baseball cards, all in their Montreal Expos uniform.
Amazing.
As well as a 1987 O-Pee-Chee card of Patrick Waugh.
Love it.
That's what you can buy on his eBay account right now. It's on bids. So if you're like, I want to own something of Ryan Cohen's, there you go.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So we'll see how this saga plays out, but I think this could be a genius play by Ryan Cohen of GameStop. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. Okay, the whole GameStop thing could have been a hobby headline segment on its own, but I got another one for you guys. For today's episode, there was an interesting Sports Illustrated article that came out recently, and it was titled "The State of the Hobby: Booming Card Sales, Grading, and Wax Prices." And the article makes the case that the financial side of the hobby looks stronger than ever, but yes, it's still in a state of flux. All right, so like we've done in the past, I'll go over some quotes or some key points in the article, and then we can discuss our thoughts on them one at a time. All right, the first one, I just want to alert you guys to the card sales numbers for March over the past 8 years. All right, so this is March card sales numbers. Starting with 2019, there's been 22 million card sales. The year after, 2020, went up to 25.79 million. 2021, here we go. We're going to the COVID era. Went from 25 million to 185 million. So wow. Huge jump. 2022, now we're right in it. 208 million. So that was another all-time high. 2023, there's the regression a bit. 175 million. Now 2024 was a slight bounce back, 225 million, also breaking a record that year in March. 2025, last year, went from 225 million in sales in March to 303 million. So that was a new record. And then 2026, this March, we have all the numbers now, Went from 303 million to, guess what number? If you haven't seen it already, what would you guess?
I would say double.
Okay, John?
Wow. I was gonna guess in the 400s.
It's a bullish growth, man. I'm telling you, the hobby is hot.
The hobby is hot. Hyung's absolutely right. Doubled. 606
really?
million
Damn.
Wow.
this past March.
Damn.
Exactly double.
600 million is a lot. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Brand new record, of course. Yeah. So I was going to ask if that surprised you, but obviously it does for a lot of us.
Clark, we've been side by side with this. We've been saying this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We've been calling play-by-play on this since 2019, really, or 2020, where, we knew that there was going to be a retraction, and but we still believed in the future of the hobby, and it hasn't even touched kind of like the surface of what it was, right? So that's why I just going through the years, these are very specific graphs with any bullish market, right? It's like you have that one pullback and then it skyrocket from there. And that's what we're witnessing. We're right in the second boom, I say in the card hobby. And it's not necessarily, because the hobby is so hot. There's so much going on and there's so much activity and there's so many people in the hobby, and marketing and media becomes our number one way of communicating now. It's a marriage that, like, you know what? It's the best case scenario for the hobby, in my opinion. And that's what we were kind of harping on. So I'm not too surprised, but I am shocked to actually see it in person.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. John,
Is
what are
that
your
number?
thoughts?
Sorry, is that number the number of individual cards that have been transacted, or the number of
Revenue.
transactions? Oh, revenue, full revenue.
For the month of March, for those years, yeah.
Right. Yeah, including wax, right? Like breaking.
I guess
I would
so, yeah.
assume breaking is
industry
like a
whole.
humongous component of the rise.
I would assume so, yeah. Card sales
Yeah.
numbers would encompass all that.
Right. Yeah,
Your
I
thoughts?
mean, you're kind of. I'm obviously surprised by the number because I was guessing 400, but we're moving into 600. But when you think about it, it makes sense. Like when you think of how crazy 2021 was, when all of us were kind of getting back into it. When you look at it now, there's so many more collectors in the space, like so many. It's very clearly evident if you've gone into any of the major shows, if you're in the Toronto Expo or down in the States, you could probably witness it just going into a show, seeing how many more people there are this year than previous years. So that's one. And then obviously for me, like looking at the breaking component, that is controlling the market right now in terms of like wax prices. Like that is just for a regular collector, you can't even get into wax because of breaking, right? And it just so many, aside from collectors, I would think like 50% of the hobby is people that sort of like gambling component, like people just looking to have a good time, looking to get into breaks and get into not really caring about the little singles and the small cards that they get. They're just breaking to try and hit the big chase or whatever it is in that product, right? So I think you have the collector space that has clearly grown even since COVID. It's grown and there's a lot more people, but then you have the additional, maybe not collectors, but people just wanting to kind of dip their toes into sports cards and the investment side of sports cards. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, I'll also add, obviously a big component to that growth is TCG, huge contributor of that number for sure. If you look at the card ladder index, every single index is up. It's all in the green, every single one, including Star Wars, basketball, and particularly for sports, basketball is 50% increase year over year. And this might surprise you. Guess which sport has seen a 127% increase year over year, and it's not one of the main four. What sport do you think would have seen? It's all relatively speaking. No, I mean,
you put him in the fourth category.
What would the fourth be for you?
Yeah, I guess it would be hockey, but
yeah,
would be soccer.
F1.
Both good guesses. It's not soccer. It's not F1. It's tennis. Saw a huge increase this past year. Yeah. So, and I think we're both in agreement, or all in agreement, that we don't see it as a bubble, but it's just feels a lot different than 2021. There's a higher base, higher floor, so many more collectors, like you were saying, John, right now, and Hyung, like you're saying, this is why we're still doing the pod. We just believed even during the regression, this was totally expected. It didn't come out of left field for us, and we're just waiting for that bounce back, which is what we're witnessing right now.
And that's and I hear always, like, you hear about, oh, they're printing to the moon, print runs this. You got to understand, man, it's still supply demand. Supply demand works the same way. If there's just so much demand because there's so many people in the hobby, as long as that's a healthy mix, the print runs will play in your favor, because now the really super low print runs, you had every chance to get early, and your knowledge now within that, there's so much opportunity in the future as well, because it's like, do you see the hobby regressing at this point, or are we still in the infant stages of potentially making it even more when we see the $1 billion months in the future? It's like, where are you gonna position yourself? Are you gonna say that, oh, this is meant to crash, or the hobby's dead because I can't rip anymore for an affordable price? Those aren't valid reasons why the hobby's not going to move, whether you like it or not. And I get it. It's like, as a hobbyist, those are the things that you always hear, but realistically, the marketplace doesn't care. And we used to say, if you think about the numbers, like when we started back 2019, 2020, the numbers were $20 million, and now we're talking 600 million. That's 30 times the amount, right? Where we said in a $20 million market, an Otani with 1,000 print run, that should equate to a 30,000 print run at the same supply demand gap, right? So for me, it's like, the opportunities are there, especially in a growing market. And that's the way you need to be looking at it right now. If we would all want to buy what we could buy in a $20 million month market, back in March, if we can. If we all could go back, I guarantee you every one of us would be like, hey, we're spending based on a $600 million 2026, right?
100%. Yeah. And just to echo your point, and we'll go to the next point after this, but if you believe the market's still growing, we're at 606 million now. I have no doubt that we're going to hit $1 billion a month at some point in the near future. All that's really needed is we just need to slightly recalibrate, right? Like, you can't go wish back that, that we're back in 2020 or 2019. But if you think the market is still growing, in a way, we're still early. And that means there's so much more opportunity still to really do well for yourself in the hobby, if you believe the market's going to continue to grow. So I'm just echoing your point exactly. But yeah, I mean, 3, 4, 5 years, I'm pretty sure that we're still going to be doing this podcast, and we're like, guys, can you believe it? We're $1 billion a month. We just hit $1 billion a month.
Crazy.
In the hobby. So, all right. You know what else? What else is also going up? This point number 2, card grading. Year over year, it's up right now by 43%. In April of this year, a new record was set with 3.1 million cards graded. And obviously, PSA is number 1. CGC is number 2. That might not be surprising anymore with the growth of TCG cards. But good old Beckett, the one we love the most on this pod. Hyung and I, at least. But it's at the number 3 spot with a 70% year over year growth. But SGC is down 70% year over year. So I guess Beckett kind of took over. And then Tag, they're up 27% year over year. So every grading company is on a nice tear except SGC. So my 2 questions for you guys. First, speaking of SGC, is it RIP for SGC? And 2, what do you think of this, just Beckett rising as it is right now? Is it because Collectors Inc. now owns Beckett? That begs the question, can we expect upcharges now for BGS in the near future? We were just at the expo this past week, and our booth was right beside the Beckett booth. And I can tell you, because I witnessed it, the lines for Beckett were huge. Like, every single day, if you weren't there first thing in the morning, you're waiting in line for at least 2 hours. That was kind of the expected waiting time.
Oh.
And that's despite the fact that the cost of grading Beckett slabs have doubled since Collectors Inc. took over. So anyway, that's a two-parter. Your thoughts on SGC and Beckett?
So Beckett, for me, the product was never bad. The product was always superior and good. And the marketplace suffered because of the people running it. And for me, it's like, this was needed regardless of your stance at it, because I love Beckett as a product. The problem is accessibility and the willing to want to send a card in, because like I said, the times have been horrendous in terms of turnaround, support, service. It just wasn't there. So for me, I'm not surprised with the move. And I think it just proved that what Collectors is doing with PSA, regardless of whether you like PSA or not, or their money grab, they're operational at scale. And that's the number one thing that is needed in the hobby is, can it service the $600 million months, right? And that's all we need, is because if the product is superior, right, all you have to do is put someone in there that knows what they're doing in terms of operational. Now, this is not to say that I agree and, I'm happy that PSA, took over Beckett. I'm just happy that Beckett is back in terms of, hey, I think Beckett slabs are great. I like the grading system. I like the black label. I think the black label has its own brand. I'm big old school guy where I used to look at the Beckett price guide. So like the brand itself is super strong. I'm just happy that someone's, providing something. Whether SGC was kind of like just, floating out there so, it could negotiate this Beckett deal, I think it really doesn't matter at this point. But I would hope that they could still, be relevant, because like I said, I see some SGC slabs, SGC 10 slabs for like half the price of PSA. I think there's so much value, and I think users will agree that, I'll take a SGC at 50% of the value at PSA 10 any day of a relevant card. And I think everybody could agree that the value's there. And as long as that mindset still stays, I think SGC could still hold up and still could provide somewhat position in the marketplace.
Before you go on, John, I love that point, because we used to talk about Beckett slabs the exact same way. Like, so much value in Beckett slabs. That's, compared to BGS 9.5 compared to a PSA 10. Like, I rather pay 50 or 60% of the PSA 10 value for BGS 9.5. It's kind of flipped a little bit. Now we're like, SGC 10, like you're saying, I'm like more interested in looking at those, and I'm like, this might be a good crossover, or right. Or like there might be better value in the SGC 10 if it can't be worth 40% of a PSA 10. Like it's crazy how some of these SGC 10 cards are valuated. But anyway, I thought that was funny that now we're talking about SGC cards in the same way we talked about Beckett a year or 2 years ago. But yeah, John, what are your thoughts?
Bonjour, compadre. It's the
Priceline Negotiator.
How do I negotiate so many great travel deals? My greatest gadget, the Priceline app. It's got hotel deals, flight deals, rental car deals, all of those deals in a bundle. Deals, game day deals, concert trip deals. No one deals more deals than Priceline. Hold your horses, there's more. The app lets you filter hotels by neighborhood, vibe, star level, and amenities like pools and spas and beachfronts and... Wait, I'm not done. Stop cutting me off.
Priceline.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, you're not too surprised at the Beckett number. It's good to hear about the surprising how long the lines were in terms of the Beckett grading submission at the expo.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give Beckett credit yet. I think they are also, again, kind of falling ass backwards on a rebound. And for me, I think when I think about it, it's three things. Number one, TCG is dominating the grading space. And I don't, like Roy knows the prices. I don't really follow the prices, but I have seen snippets of Instagram posts and black label cards. Whether it's One Piece or Star Wars or Pokemon, the price is insane.
Yeah,
and I've seen people submitting like 800 cards of Pokemon or One Piece or whatever to try and hit one or two black labels, which normally they actually do. And you make up the costs right there, and you can probably resubmit all the rest at PSA. So I think TCG is one component of the rebound. I think you just talked about it. I think the other component is the fact that for a while now, you saw BGS 9.5 min gems kind of are floating around the price of PSA 9s. And I think enough people caught on and said, yo, that's great value. You can just buy it and crack it, resubmit it, or do whatever you want with it. And now when you look at prices, I don't know about the Pokemon space. I assume it's very similar, but in the sports card space, it's not the same as PSA 9. Like you're now seeing BGS min gems being like a decent, not, we're not talking double or anything. But it's not the same as PSA 9. So
Somewhere in between.
if you're submitting to either PSA or whatever, and I think this one is a little off. Like again, now it's worth it to kind of go to Beckett to try to get that min gem because you are going to get that ROI. So I think that's another one. And the third one is I think the turnaround times. So PSA have had notable delays in turnaround times, and I think because there's value in BGS and BGS 9.5s and True Gem pluses and stuff like that, I think a lot of people are kind of trying to see what's an alternative to get some of their cards graded a lot quicker. And I to be honest, I'm not sure what the Beckett turnaround times are, but I would think that I've seen enough people sound off on Instagram posts and social media how frustrated they are at the turnaround times at PSA. So I would
Right.
imagine that is also a component. So I don't think it's something that Beckett really did. I really think they're you know, kind of falling ass backwards again into a rebound. And that's actually great news because I think OGs like us want to see Beckett succeed. Like that is a brand that we all grew up with. As much as I hate on Beckett, I don't actually mind it. Like I do want to see them succeed. So it's definitely and although PSA now owns them, but you do want to see some competition within the grading space. I don't even know if that makes sense anymore, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
actually we'll touch upon that very briefly at the very end. But I agree with all your points. Yeah, and it's fair that you and others will think that Beckett's just kind of capitalizing just on because of how hot the hobby is right now. But I think BGS is also taking a play from the PSA playbook. Obviously, it makes sense now because they're owned by the same parent company. Actually, at the expo, they had to stop taking orders for same day or like end of show turnaround time because they got so busy. So I think there's going to be growing pains for Beckett too now. As they try to scale. Just like PSA, they need more people to grade, and I think we're going to see that.
But and that's the thing where I'm bullish on this is PSA has the infrastructure to scale. So
Right.
it would be because part of the issue with Beckett was they didn't necessarily have the leadership or management or systems in place that allowed them to take on more customers. So a big part of that is, why would PSA acquire someone like Beckett? They know that they have a plug and play solution to kind of make that from, if they bought it for $100 million or whatever it was, to a $500 million just on volume and system infrastructure, where they could literally plug and play what they're doing at PSA in terms of logistical and operational and use it for Beckett. So that's a thing that I think is going to improve. I would assume immediately, and that was kind of their plan to really bring up the value of Beckett, because like I said, we go back to the fundamentals of what the valuation of the whole industry is, how many people are grading. And as someone running PSA or collectors in general, you're just looking at opportunity. Okay, if there's 600 million people or $600 million of revenue in March in general, how much is that in grading, and how can I capitalize it? Just make sure that I'm able to fulfill as many orders as possible. And to me, it's a no-brainer. It's low-hanging fruit. So it's something that I think it's on us to expect collectors to bring Beckett up to the standard it needs to be.
Totally agree. And I think it's going to happen. I think what Collectors is doing is they're kind of, now that they have BGS too, that there's more different avenues where you could submit your cards, and so hopefully that'll alleviate some of the wait or turnaround times wherever you want to submit it to, whether it's PSA or BGS. I think SGC had that function for a while until pretty much PSA seemed to have totally given up on SGC, which is why I'll say this. The only thing I'll say about SGC is, and we've been saying it for a while on this podcast, just become a pure vintage play. Make it an elite vintage grading service. SGC, go back to your roots. I think at this point you got to give up on the lower tier cards, modern cards. I think
They should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, that revenue stream is dried up. Don't try to revive it. Save your money there, but just focus on making the vintage slab in some way look nice, more appealing, and make it, try to be that part of the market, right? So I think that's all I'm going to say for SGC. Yeah. I'm going to skip the third point because Will, Roy, and we discussed about the availability of wax or seal product at release prices. We know how hard that's been to do. There's EQL, but there's issues with EQL too. You got to be lucky in terms of being one of the buyers to be able to get product. We discussed a number of numerous ways. So if you missed that episode a couple weeks back when Will, Roy, and I were discussing it, that's going to be an ongoing thing. Trying to make wax, the price of wax, more affordable. Not even more affordable. Topps has actually held their prices in line. That's kind of what the problem is. There's not enough supply to meet the demand at those release prices, right? So I think they got to be a little bit more creative. Some of the ideas we talked about on that episode was, if you want to get hobby stores involved, instead of them breaking that product, allocate some of it to the customers. And if they want it, they got to rip inside the store. Guess what? That's great content for the hobby store too. So it's kind of a win-win, like if you rip inside a store, you get it at retail prices and you give it to a collector, because obviously a flipper wouldn't want to do that in store, right? So anyway, that's one idea. But if you guys have any ideas who are listening to the pod, DM us. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and then we could maybe air some of your ideas in the future. All right, I'm going to skip to the last point. And I'm going to read the last paragraph of the article and just want to get your final thoughts. You kind of alluded to it or hinted at it, John. More competition would always help. The author agrees on that point. But he says, but given the current landscape, quote, this is what we will all be operating in for the foreseeable future. It has been a fairly safe space to put your money for decades now. And barring unforeseen circumstances in the global economy, it doesn't look like a steep drop is on the horizon, end quote. Agree or disagree with that last kind of general sentiment?
I agree for the most part, but I also believe that we also are in a shift of just changing in general as society. Like I think even, we're looking the oil crisis, it's like, is oil the sustainable energy going forward or in the near future? If not, if so, how is that going to affect the future of the hobby, where they go? So it's like, I think we just don't know at this point in time, because it's not just reliant on the growth of the hobby. Now, if this kind of growth happened 10 years ago, then I would say, yeah, this is such a really bullish market and I love it. But we just don't know because of the landscape of, how the stock market's going to be in the next 2-3 years, right? So it's like there's a lot of variables and dependents that we're not necessarily aware of right now. So I don't necessarily agree with that fully in that context that, hey, it's cards to the moon like our podcast. But if all, is good with kind of like the technology and surrounding infrastructure, I think it's a relatively safe community. And, it's proven that it's outperforming even, obviously some stocks, but definitely the dollar. It's outperforming the dollar. If you're to put $100K in sports cards versus $100K in a savings account, most likely if you put it in the right cards, you're definitely going to outperform the dollar. So I think that's what, and remember, that's what we're also doing is we're selling against the dollar. And it's a combination of, it looks like it's all going up, but we could look at it as the dollar's going down big time. And there's really no value in the dollar in the first place. So, that's a whole different story. But, I think there's a lot at play. So that definitely can't be conclusive.
Before I ask you, John, the author did say, and I quoted him, barring unforeseen circumstances in the global economy. So I guess that's what you're alluding to. Yeah. We don't know what that is right? But I'm going to push back on that. But I want to hear from John first. What do you think of that last sentence?
Yeah, I think, I mean, truthfully, any like investment class or collectible, Rolex, wine bottles, art, it'll all go to nothing if there's World War III, right? So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. But we on this pod, we joked, like into the 20 COVID era, how this has now become a pretty, you know, like almost like an investment class. And I don't think it's quite, we were all kind of talking out of our butts a bit, but I think it's close. Like it's not quite there, but just looking at the money movement and some of the big players involved in the high end space, and looking at Shohei prices, which is insane, and looking at Pokemon prices, and just in general, where the hobbyist, it's kind of on a bullish run, but it does appear as though people are getting more and more confident putting their money into sports cards. And it's not like sports is going anywhere. Sports is always going to be popular. Um, so it does feel like if you're going to invest, and the great thing about sports cards or Pokemon is I think for most collectors, I think almost everyone now in terms of the collecting space is sort of like this hybrid collector. Like why not, right? If you can invest in something and it turns money for you, then it's more money to invest in other things slash some extra money to put into some PC cards that may not be worth much in the future. But that's the whole point of collecting. And I think because you're always going to have sports fans, if you're a Pokemon fan, you're probably always going to love Pokemon. And I think that aspect um, really bodes well for the hobby. And the more and more people get into it, there's more and more of a baseline. And I think maybe it will never be like a pure asset class, but I mean, it's as close as it's going to get.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And you're saying, if World War III happens, yeah, everything goes to zero. But hobby hot take or hot take in general, I think the hobby will be fine during World War III. Someone's going to clip that. Someone's going to clip it and like, Clark, what are you talking about? I want to explain myself. I'm just saying, I'm obviously hyperbolic in that statement, but when the world shut down due to a virus and the dollar just tanked, everything tanked. Guess what was doing just fine? Guess actually what went the other way. People needed a break from the devastation that was happening in the world, and they started collecting cards. So my point is, what else can happen? What else can happen that will, like, if the oil prices tank and we're like, oh, I just bought a gas car and now it's like $4 Canadian to a liter or something. I need to buy cards. I need to get my mind off of this thing that
it's the name of the podcast. It's Cards to the Moon.
Cards to the Moon.
Listen, if the apocalypse was happening and your house is burning down, you're gonna grab your wife, you're gonna grab your kids, and you're damn sure gonna grab the Shoei Superfractor and put it in your pocket as you run out of the house.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, we've seen a lot of disasters, and I'm not making light of the disasters, but it's almost therapeutic in a way. The cards can be therapeutic in a way, and I'm just making the point that I feel like cards are, it's just unbelievable what this market has been doing over the past several years, despite things going on in the world. But yeah, I'm pretty bullish. I'm obviously biased now that I do this full time, but I'm definitely feel that cards can definitely go to the moon still. All right.
I'll say one more
Yes.
thing, Clark, with that.
Sure.
And I think there's different ways to invest in the hobby other than just financially. And you take it like even this podcast that we started, it's like the time that you're putting in, that's all little investments that, you make, and you create something that can be more sustainable in the future. So there's so many different avenues where you can invest, not only financially, because if it's a growing industry, and it's not necessarily all about money, but it's building something that is sustainable and long lasting, right? So for me, like if you're a listener and it's like, man, I can't afford the hobby anymore, there's other ways to be relevant, in the hobby, where you could invest strategically and, net out pretty positive results.
Absolutely. Great way to end this segment for sure. Okay, let's move on to quiz show. Actually, John had to hop off because he had a call, so that's okay. He gave us his pick one right before he left off. So I'm going to play that clip of his pick one at the very end. And then you guys, the listeners, can decide which one you will pick. And then we'll choose right after as well. But before we do that, let's do quiz show. I just read another article on Yahoo Sports, and it listed the top 5 rookie card classes in baseball card history. So these are baseball cards. And we could go through this relatively quickly. And it's good, I guess, better that you're on instead of John, because you're more knowledgeable about baseball cards than John is. But all right, let's start with 1989, and we're going to go backwards because after 1989, it's all vintage. Okay, so obviously the 1989 rookie card class.
Yeah.
Top rookie cards.
Griffey.
They listed 5. Griffey's number 1, of course.
Yeah.
$5,000 for a PSA 10 now,
which is crazy. Yeah, I remember we were buying it at 600. We're saying these will go to the moon. And they did. We should have bought more. Yeah. We should have bought more.
You don't have to name the rest, but yeah. Do you remember anyone else from that 1989?
89. Who's 89? Was Tom Glavine?
He might have been, but he's not on the list.
No.
Another Braves pitcher, his fellow Braves pitcher.
John Smoltz.
John Smoltz, 89 Fleer.
89 Fleer. Who else was 89? 89.
Another tall lefty pitcher.
Oh, Randy Johnson Fleer.
Yep, and Upper Deck as well.
Upper Deck.
Randy Johnson.
89. That was second year Roberto Alomar. I guess Alomar was 88, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last two, I'll give you clues because his son played on the Blue Jays before he got traded. No, his son played for the Jays. I don't think
for the Jays.
Yeah, he was Houston Astros.
Oh, Biggio, Craig Biggio. Oh, yeah.
Biggio,
yeah.
89 tops.
That's right.
And then the other one on this list was he had a very unique batting stance, waved his bat a lot, back and forth, home run hitter.
Waved his bat.
Waved his bat back and forth, very active with his stance.
Gary Sheffield.
Gary Sheffield.
Yes.
89 tops.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What a class.
What a class. Okay, now this gets interesting. 1955.
Oh, boy.
What are the rookie cards? Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
Horizontal. Think horizontal.
55.
Iconic horizontal cards, yeah.
55.
I'll start things off. Tragic accident. He died tragically on a plane. I believe on a plane. His PSA 5s are going for 5,700. But his 1955 tops. This is a rookie card.
I should know this.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh, Roberto
Clemente, yeah. Was one of them. Another classic
55.
Horizontal card.
What am I thinking of?
LA Dodgers. Pitcher.
Sandy Koufax?
Sandy Koufax, yeah. Those are the 1955 Topps cards. And then there's Harmon Killebrew as
Harmon
well.
Killebrew. These are names I honestly haven't heard since the 80s. Seriously.
Hardcore baseball card collectors. Okay, let's go to 54. That might be a little easier. Iconic 1954 rookie card of bright orange background.
Sorry, I'm a vintage. The years just don't play.
Yeah, it gets all mixed up, but you would know it if you saw it. Hank Aaron, 1954
I know
Topps.
The 54 Topps Aaron makes sense.
Yeah. Ernie Banks also makes that list.
That's right.
And you wouldn't guess this, but Tommy Lasorda, who we know better as a manager, but
how is his prices gone? People are buying?
PSA 5, I don't know why it gives the PSA 5 values, but I guess 280 for PSA 5.
Probably
I guess
most
it's harder
common.
to find PSA. Yeah. Harder to find in high grades, right?
Right.
All right, 1951.
So you got your Bowman Mantle, right?
Yes, that's number 1.
You got...
Who else do you have that's often neglected?
Willie
because
Mays?
of Mickey Mouse. Willie Mays, 1951 Bowman.
Yeah.
PSA 5 for Mantle, 51 Bowman's going for 33,000 versus 20,000 for Willie Mays, PSA 5.
Wow. I think both cards are kind of underrated.
Those are the two best for sure. And
Yeah.
then you got, to round off the top four in this category, Whitey Ford, 1951
right.
Bowman. And then Monty Irvin. I don't know if I know him, but yeah. Okay, 1948. The rookie card class was finished number 1 on this top 5 list. 1948 Leaf, my grail that I will attain one day. Do you know what I'm talking about?
1948 Leaf. Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, the Jackie. That's like a Picasso, I would say.
I want it so bad. I mean, I was thinking, I talked to DC about this on a previous pod, but if I sell my Trout or my Luca, I'm going to reinvest it into it with trying to get that Jackie Robinson 48
Really?
Leaf.
What can you get?
That's my play.
What grade can you get with that?
PSA 1 probably.
PSA
if I
1?
wanted to straight card for card, but PSA
Now,
2 is going for about 15,000.
Is the play to constantly try to upgrade that vintage, or do you do the upgrading with the modern cards to build more value, and then you just cash out on a higher grade?
I think the latter is the play. Yeah.
Yes,
but,
I agree.
But right now, PSA 2 would be my goal. Nice
Right.
PSA 2, good, great. Yes.
Until a PSA 3 pops up.
I got to draw the line somewhere. But yeah, anyway, I'll finish off the segment. Also, 1948 Leaf was Satchel Paige.
Oh yeah,
Stan Musial.
Yeah.
1948 Bowman, you got Yogi Berra.
Right.
Again, 1948 Leaf, you got Bob Feller, Warren Spahn,
Wow.
Larry Doby,
Big names.
and yeah, big names.
Yeah, I apologize. Like I haven't touched vintage in the longest time, but it was almost, if you played baseball, you have to know all these, legends before, because we didn't grow up in the internet era. You had Beckett, you had, stories. That's it. You had maybe newsprint, if that, right?
Yeah.
So that's all you had.
That's true. Absolutely. But, for our vintage collectors who listen to the pod, probably knew all of these right away. But
they're like screaming. They're like, how could you not know?
Yeah. But that's for you guys. All right. Let's finish this episode with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. All right. Like I said, I'm going to play John's clip right at the very end. But Hyung, do you want to start this for us today?
Yeah. And we're going straight to the Shohei market.
Yes, sir.
Reassess, because I've seen some pretty crazy sales over the last, I would say, month or so, and I've talked to you personally about it. I think just the Ohtani market is crazy, and those that think that ripping doesn't pay off. I remember I was ripping 2018, and the boxes even they were expensive. Like we're talking $300 hobby boxes, which was absurd at the time, but
Right.
the amount of cards I've gotten or created with Ohtani is crazy, because if you see the market, even base cards are going for 100 plus in PSA 10. So it's like, if you were ripping between 2018 and 2022, I guarantee you could cash out on some Ohtani that you probably never thought you would have cashed out on. Mm-hmm. And they are gold right now. So there's that. The market is crazy with Ohtani. And it's bled through all his Ohtani cards, not just the high end, right? So, but I'm obviously going to go with the staple Ohtanis, because prices are getting absurd. The Topps Chrome X Fractor, so the pitching, number 700, image, sorry, I think the Topps Chrome number is different, but it's the white jersey, X Fractor, recently sold for $6,300.
Wow.
PSA 10. So there's a pop count of $530, and it's been sustaining this price for the past month and a bit. So X Fractors, I told you off air too. I think it's one of the hottest cards, just because of the liquidity plus the scarcity. There's a kind of balance of both. So the price is up to $6,500. Would you rather get that card, pay $6,500 US for that card, or would you go into a 2019, so the year after, his second year, there was a Topps Chrome, 1984 kind of design. It's kind of like an insert auto. It was numbered to 20. Okay. Numbered to 20. And I'll kind of pass the link. That sold for $6,500 last month. So within the last 30 days, sold for $6,500, and that's a PSA 9, but that's an auto. Which one would you purchase? Because those are two similar cards that here I'll send it to the group chat right now, just so that you have an image. I personally love this card. I think out of 20 is crazy, but I think the 1984 design, I think it's such an eye appealing card to me.
Yeah, it's nice.
But
it looks like it's on card auto too, right?
It's on card auto, his old auto. But here's the thing. I find these are very tricky to comp because, like I said, the previous buyer or seller didn't have any comps to go off of. And it's just, what do you think it's worth? So would you go into a more liquid card where there's a sustainable marketplace where, hey, when I need to exit, I know that there's going to be a buyer. Whereas this auto, you're going to be like, okay, when I want to exit on this card, we don't know what it's going to get because the marketplace isn't as, I guess, liquid in the auto market. Which one would you take?
This is a really tough one because I love autograph cards, especially if they're on cards. It's this old auto, so that's got it going for it. And then, off air, we're also talking how insert cards are the play. Even on air, we're saying that on a previous pod. And so it checks all the boxes. But to your point, the liquidity of the 2018, the rookie card and an X Factor and a relatively low pop count, like I think I would naturally, if I'm spending $6,000 plus, I'm not, that much of a risk taker. Or I am a little bit, but at that amount, I'm like, I think I prefer the liquidity. Although if it was for my PC, I go for the 2019.
We're back on silver prisms.
You tricked me. But the way the market is, yeah, I think if it comes down, whenever it does, if it does, you would still be able to get rid of the X Factor rookie, right? And the other, for the other card, you might be holding on for a lot longer, actually. So, but if you're looking to do a quick flip, I don't know, maybe I might take the gamble with the auto. So I guess it's your timeline and what you want to do with the card. So for me, I don't know when I'll be able to flip, or if, I like to hold on to cards that I acquire for a little while just to enjoy it for a bit until I have a definitive plan. If I wanted to flip, I usually like to reinvest into another card. So I think the way the Otani market's going, I think it's more likely that you'll see a steady increase in that rookie X Factor card. Whereas you got to be a little bit lucky with the 2019 to find that right buyer that's willing to pay a bit more than the last comp, which might be difficult to do. So I'm going with the X Factor.
Interesting. And it's funny because, over the years, the answer changes and, and that's important because I think people take it for granted of how important liquidity is. They don't take into consideration liquidity, and our emotional collector's bias always likes the rarity. And we always talk about this. We're buying low numbered autos. A year ago, we would have said we'd buy any Otani auto, right? But then, and that's the interesting part about this marketplace is, liquidity, I think, is very important. And there's no way that my logical mind would say I would buy the X Factor over an Otani auto, especially over the last year and a half. But I agree with you in terms of that. I'm realizing how important liquidity is, and if you want it, liquidity is just as important as as the purchase, right? Because if it's not sellable or you can't cash out, it becomes tough to see it as more of an investment piece, right? So, but with that said, I just want to throw that out there because it's obviously on people's minds still, because they either accidentally don't know that they're buying a higher pop card for the same amount of price, or they're very aware and they like the liquidity and the demand for that particular X factor, right? So I see both sides, but I think at this point I'm still bullish on Otani autos. And, I thought that specific auto is a steal at 6,500 long term. I'm thinking based on where Otani autos are valued at. And, I just think it's going to be just very tough to buy Otani autos in general. And it already has. And we're talking about 6,500 is a steal. Before it was like 6,500. I don't know, man. It's a lot for a piece of cardboard. But now it's like, our mindset's a little different. So I'm still under that context that Otani autos are still the play, but there's no doubt in my mind that the liquidity is just as important. And I get why someone would pay 6,500, because next week it could be 9,000 and cash out 9,000, no problem too. Right. So, I'm going to go with the Otani auto.
Yeah, no, that's excellent points. And maybe I think my bias a little bit is I was just at a booth, like I just had a booth at the Sport Card Expo, and I have big cards, and those are not as easy to move, obviously, right? So for me, it's like all you need is one buyer, but you have to also be patient. So, so when you're at a booth, when you almost want liquidity because you want to cash out on a lot of these items. So maybe that kind of, if I didn't have the booth, I might have just gone Otani auto, obviously. But I think that played a factor in my decision. Just that experience, having a booth and having to vend, and the whole idea of liquidity being that important. So excellent point. I agree with you. All right. My pick one, very quickly, again, Otani. And we're talking kind of on the lines of how insert cards are kind of the play. So I'm going to give you a couple insert cards, really, or not regular cards. So one of them is, I didn't know about this card until recently. Topps Chrome Black in 2026 has the home field subset. And everyone knows on the pod, I love home field advantage. I think they're just calling it a home field, not home field advantage, but home field. But it's the same kind of look, almost Panini downtown-ish, right? But in the Topps Chrome Black set, the home field, I guess it's not even base, but the regular cards are numbered to 50. They're actually numbered to 50, okay? And Otani has one. There's one on bids right now that is at 4,100 last time I saw. I think there's a couple days left. But I'm going to assume or guess that it might finish at 5,000, 6,000, somewhere in there. I could be totally wrong. You could go even higher. But let's take that 5,500 comp. Otani, home field, insert card, numbered to 50. Okay, raw, because it just came out. Versus the Otani Topps 2025 Topps Now, orange opal chrome. And it's graded PSA authentic. That's numbered to 25. So if you had to pick one of these insert type cards, which one would you choose?
Can you send me?
I'll show you a picture.
Yeah, sure. Of each, because it's gonna come down to kind of like, okay, which one do I think is?
Yes, and the 2025. Yeah, I will do that. The 2025 Topps Now is also the one of his. I have the base version of this card, which is the 10K 3 home run game. Remember that against in the playoffs last year, the NLCS. Right. But yes, I'll show you that right now. And I believe that sold for 5,500 recently. Here's that.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Oh man. I
50.
I don't. Okay. Here's the thing. I hate that logo, that home field logo. I think it looks so cheap.
I don't like it either.
The font.
Yes, it's the font.
It's the font, but I like the card itself. If that makes sense. But I don't love Topps Chrome Black. So I like the card better than the Topps Now. I feel like Topps Now still, it's not something about it. The eye appeal, I don't know. I like the eye appeal of the home field better than the Topps Now card. So I'm going to go the Topps Chrome Black, but there are things that I don't love about it, but because it's out of 50, I really like it. I like Otani in a Dodgers uniform, anything numbered. Inserts, like I said, I'm bullish on inserts. I think long term, a numbered insert is such a great play. I think over time, it's going to age really well. I think inserts have great eye appeal in terms of collectors' desirability. So I'm going to go with the Topps Chrome Black Home
The
field.
Topps, okay.
Yeah.
The Topps now orange is numbered to 25, I believe.
I know it's numbered to 25, but it's not like it's little stuff like it's a opal, like whatever. It's not like true orange, or it's not chrome refractor where I'm just like, oh, like I'm excited. It's just like
Wow.
another
See,
parallel, right?
This it's so funny you say that because, like you were saying with the other card, we tend to change our minds over time. And then I remember in episodes in the past, few years ago, we're like, orange, true orange, orange shimmer. What's the difference?
That's
Number
different.
25.
Opal to 25 that doesn't look like
hey,
an orange
it's just-
refractor is totally different. Shimmers are okay. Shimmers and waves. Those are like
Wow.
those are like the
Discrimination.
standards, but not like the
Not opal. That's
Not
where you draw
opal.
the line. Opal. Shimmer gets a pass, but opal doesn't.
shimmer does. Shimmer and waves get a pass.
See, I mean, as anyway, that's our tastes change over the years.
They
or
do.
We have,
It's very emotional. It's what you're feeling. But I'm still going Topps Chrome Black. I think there's just an easier sell, a liquid, like as we talked about. It's new and hot as well. So I think you could probably potentially make money. Obviously, go both ways. But the only thing I don't like about the card is just the font, which I don't think everybody shares the same sentiment. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. So I'm going to go with the Topps Chrome Black.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement. I don't like the font. I like the font what it was before with the regular home field advantage in the previous years. So I'm with you, and then before I tell you what I decide at the show, I was talking with one of the someone that dropped by the booth, and they listened to the pod, and they were talking about how even Topps now, the brand kind of flipped. When it first came out, we're like, oh, this is awful. Who's going to buy this? And then they made it better. They made it more exclusive for some of these chases. They're coming out with more often. So there's a lot of people bought the Topps Now card. My Vladdy bat flip sold in the first couple days.
Yeah.
Especially in the Toronto market, which was easy. The George Springer, Roy gave me a couple of his George Springer, that home run that in the Seattle game.
Right.
Sold quickly. You know what I mean?
I love the brand. The Topps Now brand. We've always believed in it. Yeah,
just flipped.
Yeah,
Why,
don't you think they should make the hits chrome refractors then?
Yes, 100%. That'll be so much better,
right?
But, instead of foil.
Yeah, instead of foil. Like nobody wants foil. Nobody. Let's be real. Nobody wants foil.
No one wants platinum. Yeah, we're aligned.
Yeah.
So that being said, I like Topps Now better. Much better now, but I'm with you. I'm just a home field guy. The design, I think that's going to be, people love downtowns for a reason, and I think people are going to love home field advantage, home field, whatever you want to call it now. And I like the fact that it's numbered. Like
that's
one
huge.
thing I mentioned when I talked to a lot of people about my Bobby Witt Super, I think that was the only year that Topps Chrome issued a super fractor of the home field advantage.
Crazy.
I don't know why they didn't bring it back last year. I don't know if they're going to bring it back this year or not. We don't know how they're going to roll that out in 2026 set. But for some reason, 2024 was the first year they first went from issuing a Chrome product of home field advantage and included one super fractor. And there's no other refractor. Like there's no red or orange or anything like that. So
I love
but
that
now
card, yeah.
they have Topps Chrome Black this year. I don't know why they put in Topps Chrome Black. They're probably trying to sell the Topps Chrome Black set because it's the same play with Topps Chrome Update. Let's put MLB debut patches there so we can sell the product. Same play. They're like, okay, now people are gonna buy Topps Chrome Black. I looked into it. I'm not gonna lie. I looked at. I'm like $300. It might be expensive to chase. I might just buy the card, but.
Smart move,
that's
though.
why.
Yeah, I mean,
smart move. Yeah, totally.
They've been doing that. Yeah, Panini's been doing that too with some of their downtowns and kabooms. Where they insert in random sets where if there would be no value in that set had it not been like that type of chase. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
They did it with Topps Chrome Update with the debut patches, but they don't necessarily need to load these demanded cards. They could spread it over a whole year's, and then now they're more healthier in terms of distribution and people wanting to rip the product, right? So it makes total sense. It's smart. I would do it if I was running the company.
Look for the next big chase in Topps Fire next year, okay?
That's where we got to drop the line. But that's why it's like Ohtani's breaking all the rules. He's making every card cool again.
Yeah, you could only get this Ohtani super fractor in Topps Fire, and then everyone's gonna buy it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Everyone's gonna chase it. But I'm going with the home field as well. And just because we're running long on time, I'm gonna play the clip of John's pick one that he mentioned to us. It's hockey, and I'm gonna put a poll up for him to see what other people say, and I'll vote on there. I already have my choice, but this is a special for you guys, for you listeners. Listen to his clip and then tell us what you would go for. Go to my @5cardguys Instagram. I'll put a poll out there once this episode airs. All right. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. And we'll have a brand new episode for you guys next week. Talk to you then. Bye.
If you want my pick one, just in case, if you guys want to play around with it, I chose Austin Matthews Young Guns. Obviously, he's really taken a dip, and he's 2 years removed from his 69 goals. I think this year he didn't even get point per game pace this year. Like, he was brutal. But his Young Guns is finally, I mean, what was once like $1,100 USD card is now sub 600. So I think you can pick it up for around 550.
PSA 10?
PSA 10. And also Leaf fans are kind of turning on Austin Matthews. So I don't know if is it a buy now, or we're going to turn around now that we got the first overall. I don't know. And I'm going to put that up against your boy Kucherov. He's finally getting that respect. His PSA Young Guns, PSA 10 Young Guns always floated around 400, maybe 500 on a playoff run. He had another big year, and he, I think it's going to come down off of now that they got eliminated, but it's floating around $1,000. So I would assume kind of post, playoff knockout, he'll probably come back down to 8, 7, something around there. But they should be kind of similar to each other. The Matthews is kind of on a buy low. The Kucherov is a bit of a buy high, but yeah, that's my 1v1.
Quickly, what's your pick? Kucherov.
Yeah. I think for me, I think Matthews is a buy low. I think he's going to have a chance. I think he can rebound. And I think the Leafs are in a different place enough for him to kind of be energized. But I'm not. The big component of the Matthews pricing is just how many Leaf fans are behind that pricing. And if Leaf fans are not quite behind Matthews anymore, I know many Leaf fans, including myself, are okay with trading him to get a bunch of assets. We're in that place now. So I think, I think because the Leaf fans behind, it's kind of like the Yankees and the Dodgers, right? If those big markets are not behind the player anymore, I don't know if the support for the pricing could be quite there. So yeah, Kucherov, he gets the love. I'm gonna say Kucherov. I always put kind of Datsuk as my number one Russian all time, but I think now he's snuck up. I think Kucherov for me is the all time greatest Russian-born player, and that might be a hot take against all these Ovi fans, but I think Kucherov is the best Russian of all time.
Wow. Okay.
He's there for me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.